All right, let's dive into a genuine historical mystery. It's a story that takes us thousands of miles from the traditional heartland of Islam right into the lush, river-soaked landscape of Bengal. And figuring this out, well, it helps explain a lot about the world we live in today.
So here's the big question. How did this region, so incredibly far from the Arabian Peninsula, become one of the most important centers of the Muslim world? The answer kind of messes with our usual ideas about how civilization spread.
I mean, the numbers are just staggering. Today, Bengal is home to one of the largest Muslim populations anywhere on Earth. And this didn't just happen by accident. Nope. It was the result of a really unique, centuries-long process, and understanding it changes pretty much everything.
But to really get why this is such a big deal, we have to understand that Bengal isn't just another region in India. So what makes its story so fundamentally different from anywhere else on the subcontinent? Just let that sink in for a second. After Arabs, the most numerous Muslim ethnic group in the world is Bengali. That one fact completely reframes the whole story, and it forces us to ask, again, how on earth did this happen? To find the answer, we got to go way back before a single Turkish horseman ever set foot in the delta.
Okay, let's set the scene. It's the year 1200. Bengal is a land ruled by Hindu kings, and it's deeply connected to the ancient Sanskritic civilization of India. But it wasn't one big, uniform place.
And this division right here, it's everything. You had Western Bengal, which was settled, full of farms, and totally integrated into Hindu culture. And then you had Eastern Bengal, which was, well, it was a wild, untamed frontier.
And look, this isn't me being dramatic. We have a copper plate from the 7th century that describes this land in vivid detail. It paints a picture of a place basically untouched by civilization, a frontier full of danger and just immense, untamed nature.
This stark contrast is the absolute key to the whole story. In the West, you've got this old, established society, all ordered by Brahmanical hierarchy right along the sacred Ganges River. But in the East, it's a sparsely populated forest, home to indigenous tribes who are mostly outside of that whole system. This geographic and cultural fault line, this is where our story truly kicks off.
And right into this divided land comes this new, dramatic force from the West. In the early 13th century, Turkish horsemen, still fresh from their conquest all across northern India, they turned their eyes to the incredible riches of the Bengal Delta.
Seriously, the story of the conquest itself is like something straight out of a movie. In 1204, this small cavalry band, led by Muhammad Bakhtiar, they used pure deception to get into the capital. Disguised as merchants selling horses, they launched this blitz-style surprise raid on the palace. The Hindu king, caught totally off guard, flees. And where does he flee? Not to fight another day in the settled West, but deep into the forested sanctuary of the East.
But here's the thing. This Turkish victory wasn't just about military power. It was also a battle of symbols. See, to actually rule, they had to project a completely new kind of authority, one that was totally alien to the people who lived there.
And their strategy for this? It was brilliant. They started minting coins showing a charging horseman, a crystal-clear symbol of their military dominance. But look closer. The inscription that announces the conquest was written in Sanskrit. That's a direct message to the conquered elite. At the very same time, they're building mosques and colleges, establishing the physical and intellectual architecture of their Perso-Islamic culture.
But this was so much more than just a change of rulers. It was a collision of two fundamentally different ways of seeing the world and of understanding what gives a king the right to rule in the first place.
Okay, let's break this down. For the Hindu Sena kings, the ruler was a kind of ritual actor whose job was to maintain cosmic order, dharma. He could literally connect heaven and earth. But for the new Turco-Persian sultans, no way. There was a sharp, unbridgeable divide between God and humanity. The sultan's job wasn't to be divine, but to enforce God's sacred law here on earth.
You know, a scholar from that exact time period captured this new Perso-Islamic ideal perfectly. He wrote, "The world is a garden, whose gardener is the state." This was a vision of the sultan as a manager, someone cultivating a just and orderly society, a total contrast to the mystical kingship of the Senamats.
So how do we get from this military conquest and this clash of big ideas to a massive Muslim society? Well, the usual story of conversion by the sword, it just doesn't fit the facts here. A historian named Richard Eaton proposes a much more interesting model.
See, the conquest of 1204 wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. The real transformation didn't happen because of one single event, but through the slow, eastward crawl of 4 different overlapping frontiers.
Let's quickly break these 4 frontiers down. First, you've got the Sanskritic frontier. That's the existing spread of Hindu-Buddhist civilization. Second, the political frontier, the reach of the new sultan's government and taxes. Third, the agrarian frontier. We're talking literally pioneers with axes and plows, turning forest into farmland. And finally, the Islamic frontier, the gradual adoption of a new cultural and religious identity. The real magic is in how these all interacted with each other.
And this, right here, is where the two Bengals go in completely different directions. In the old, settled West, the Sultan's political frontier just slapped a new layer of government on top of an already established Hindu society. But in the wild, forested East, everything happened at once. The government, the rice farmers, and the missionaries all pushed into the frontier together, building a totally new society from the ground up.
So what this all means is that Islamization here wasn't about forced conversion. It was a gradual, centuries-long process. For the indigenous people of the East, adopting this new faith was part of joining this new, dynamic society that was literally creating new land to live on, a system that offered a path upwards and a place in an expanding world.
Which leaves us with this final, powerful question that kind of reframes the entire history of this place. It suggests that the most powerful force for change wasn't the cavalryman's sword, but the pioneer peasant's plow, clearing the forest and building a new world, one rice paddy at a time.